What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious, along with Jess the Total Package and Craig the British Bulldog, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories
No
from the
ties.
diehards,
No ties,
sharing opinions with you. Today's topic,
Bobby.
favorite wrestling managers. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion
Please
at
do.
Our Wrestling
If
Podcast.
you guys take some time
It
to
would be
your
pretty
fucking
good.
day and go check out
On social media, can you give Jess a coronary and give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast?
I don't need
I'm
you.
excited. That's fair. We don't need them. We do this for fun.
Yeah, we do this for fucking free. It doesn't fucking matter. Joke's on you.
I don't like to bring up the privacy of my life
sorry.
when
I
I'm on the
apologize.
podcast.
We
I
haven't
will
had
say-
a Friday off in 4 years, you selfish fucks. Okay? We do this for you, fans.
I will say that I spoke with certain people in the back at the O.W.P, and I don't like to divulge their names because they have lives too. But I'll tell you that it's an uneasy environment in the O.W.P staging room right now. I'm just trying to be my best CM Punk, but I won't mention their names because I have friends there. But I'll tell you,
Source
The
says.
company is not designed to
say.
make money. It wasn't sold to me this way. They just like me. I would not have
Couldn't
been
help
on
it.
this podcast if I'd have known you guys weren't in here.
Yeah. They gave me an entire wrestling show, but I wasn't truly happy.
Yeah, but I don't like that shit at all. CM Punky bitch.
Jack
That's
Perry
so much-
kicked me in the balls.
That's fair.
You sure?
That's what happened? What happened? Hey,
What's up? Sorry.
so
Welcome back.
favorite wrestling managers. This is an exciting topic. There's
Is it?
just some that just come off the head.
But I'm gonna read the top 20 WWE managers, but we can throw in when we go around the room. We can throw in TNA managers, Crockett managers, NWA managers, whatever we want to do. And a lot of these managers I'm gonna read here been through all the territories, so it's gonna be kind of the same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through it. I'd like to start at number 20, and they say that number 20th top wrestling manager was Ted DiBiase. Now we know
Next.
Ted DiBiase from wrestling days or whatever, former WWF Tag Team Champions, former no, he never won a world title. Well, he kind of sort of won the world title, but not really.
Kind of did. He was gifted to him.
But
for a
yeah, but
second.
he became a manager when his back got so bad, and he was able to he retired in 1993, and then he came back in 94 and 95 and managed the $1 Million Corporation. He managed Sid, he managed Tatanka, he managed Kama, the Ultimate Fighting Machine. He managed IRS, who he was also tag team partners with. So DiBiase is number 20. Number 19 is Theodore Long, but Theodore R. Long really was from WCW/NWA, where he was referee. He turned corrupt, kind of like Dangerous Danny Davis. He managed Doom. I think even when he was a face, he managed Ice Train for a while. And so, like, Theodore R. Long is number 19. Number 18, Stephanie McMahon. I disagree 1,000% with this ranking. I'm going to keep my nice voice on, but this is their choice for number 18. I don't know why Stephanie McMahon is on here, but she is on here. Number 17 is Slick, the Doctor of Style. He managed Power and Glory, One Man Gang, Akeem, the Big Boss Man, Natural Butch Reed. So Slick is on here, and I do agree with that.
Slick was good. I
Slick
do
is,
that as a nice classic villain manager who you could throw him around too. Slick was very funny.
He's not talked about a lot, for sure.
Slick, I don't know how you do it. They seem to get bigger and meaner all the time. Where do you find them?
Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I need to straighten you out right now. I don't find them, dude. They find me. And the reason they find me is because of my knowledge, my ability, and my mental ingenuity. Now, can you dig it?
Number 16 is Vicky Guerrero, and she was very good. After Eddie passed away, they allowed her to step in there. They were going to pay her his full contract anyway, but they said, hey, if you want to come on screen and be an on-screen talent, we would love it.
Nice.
She managed Dolph. She managed Edge. She did some good stuff. So Vicky Guerrero is, and the "excuse me" like tagline is actually legendary. So good for her. Number
And I
15
just let's.
go ahead. Sorry.
Before you even go, just now we broached our first woman. I just want to say I think I don't know where she sits on this list and probably jumping the gun, but I think it's worth a conversation point of just segueing her in there. But I think the best female manager was Sherry, right? Not necessarily Miss Elizabeth, but sensational Sherry.
Yes,
with
I'm
what
sure
she
she's
did
going to be on this
as-
list here. I'm sure. Number
Mhm.
15 is Paul Ellering, which I disagree with. I know he managed Legion of Doom, and that's about what he did, and that was about it. And he managed what's the tag team that they have in fucking NXT? The whatever, I can't remember what their name is. The two big guys, but he manages them. But
AOP.
like, yeah, Paul Ellering, like he was a fun wrestler. Paul Ellering was, and he managed LOD, and he was most famous for that. I don't know if he's the number 15, right? Like against all those people, he's managed like one team, and LOD was over without him. And I'm not trying to shit on Paul Ellering. Like I said, he was a fun wrestler. He was a really good talent wrestling, but I don't know, really weird to me. Number 14.
And is this supposed to encompass WCW too, or no?
No, this is just WWF. As far as this from their website. Number 14 is Miss Elizabeth. She managed such talents as the Macho Man Randy Savage, the Mega Powers, and Hulk Hogan, and that's it. And the next one, Sunny is number 13. She managed LOD. She managed the
Actually,
Buddy Donnas.
no.
She was more of an on-screen talent. She was more
She
famous
managed
for that.
Shawn Michaels.
She managed
She
managed to have an affair with Shawn Michaels. She managed to be the most downloaded woman on AOL when internet was in its infancy. So she did a lot of things for WWF at the time.
She managed my heart.
The modern day gladiator. And Ahmed Johnson, you thought you were pretty funny, huh? Well, I had a bigger surprise for you. Now, didn't I? Now we're gonna get you where it counts and when it counts at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. This is the champion of the 90s.
I bet you this, punk. You got a newfound respect for women, haven't you? This next time you address her, it'll be with a miss or Mrs. in front of it, won't it?
She did manage
In
my heart
90s.
and my private time. And number 12 is Mr. Fuji. Such talent. He managed
okay.
Demolition.
Yeah.
He managed, Fuji was around Powers of Pain. He managed Yokozuna. Jim Cornette, number 11. I can't believe he's only number 11, dude. Jim Cornette he's easily in my top 5. Jim Cornette. Not only was he just a successful manager outside of WWE, Midnight Express, people like that. Dude, go ahead, Craig.
No, I was just gonna say he didn't cut his teeth, I think, in WWE. But if we're gonna go for other kind of managers, we got to talk. I don't even know if J.J. Dillon's on this list. But
Well, yeah, he might be. I don't know about
I bet
that.
he's not in the top 10.
No,
There's
because
no way.
Jim
but,
Cornette, when he was in WWF, he managed Yokozuna, he managed Owen Hart, he
Yep.
managed J. Boy Smith.
Yep.
Like, so Jim Cornette
Yep.
was, well known.
But it wasn't like he did his best work, falling off of ladders, Midnight Express. Like he had an entire
outside
stable
of the
and-
machine, yeah.
Talk for you. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is the greatest manager in the history of the sport of wrestling. Yes, I couldn't even surpass what this man has done. Jim Cornette, what are you doing here in the WWF?
First of all, Bobby, I want to say something. I'm the greatest manager in wrestling only because that you're no longer managing. I gotta say, and by the way, my mother really liked that bouquet of roses you said, but you know something?
Yeah.
Number 10 is Arnold Scotland. Now, Arnold Scotland was just a really big, help backstage, and he managed faces like Bob Backlund and things like that. Like, I think that, and Bruno Sammartino at time. I don't know if I would rank him. It's real hard to be a face manager, and kind of get some kind of traction. But Arnold Scotland, I think, is ranked higher on this list because he was a big help in the back, like to Vince. So I think that's why. Number 9 is Paul Bearer. I mean, if you combination everything, he managed Kane, he managed Undertaker, but he was Percy Pringle in WCCW and managed a lot of great people there, like Rick Rude and other folks. So, I mean, as a whole,
Based
absolutely.
on my experience with Percy Pringle, he's number 1. My personal experience.
Number 8, the Grand Wizard. Number 7,
No, thank you.
Number 7 is Sensational Sherry. Sherry.
There you
Oh,
go.
okay, good. That's props for Sherry.
She's
Good.
fantastic.
Good.
Like managed Shawn Michaels, she managed Ted DiBiase, she managed Macho Man Randy Savage,
Harlem Heat,
Harlem
bro.
Heat.
Harlem Heat, Nasty Boy. No, not Nasty Boy. Sorry, just Harlem Heat. You're right. Ric Flair.
Let's remember this boy too, with their beautiful, elegant gown, the earrings, very glamorous. But this is a very nasty person. In the ring, you're a notorious rule breaker.
I am not a rule breaker. I do whatever I can to keep my title, which does every champion. And no matter what it takes, I will continue to do so. And I will continue to be the WWF Ladies Champion.
So yeah, she's up there. To me, like she might be up there.
She
higher.
she took just as many bumps as Jimmy Hart did.
Yep.
She was great.
Maybe more.
Number 6 is Captain Lou Albano. Number 5 is
I mean, for the rock and roll era,
yes.
sure.
Number 5 is Classy Freddie Blassie.
Yes, I think back in the day.
Number 4 is Jimmy Hart, which I think Jimmy Hart doesn't get enough praise because I'm sure I have not previewed this list, by the way. I'm sure because he's overshadowed by one guy in that era, and but Jimmy Hart is
I know we all know who that is.
He's a thankless soldier, Jimmy Hart. Number 3 is Paul Heyman, which I disagree with. Number 3. Number 2 is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Number 1.
What?
Number 1 is listed agree or disagree. That's really weird. I don't know why this article did that. So number 1 is technically Bobby Heenan. So apparently I was reading a list that was one less than what I thought. So 1 is Heenan and 2 is Paul Heyman. I think at this point Paul Heyman is number 1.
You want to talk to somebody? You talk to me. He's going to do all his talking in the ring. You talk to me. You want to talk about the final chapter? I'll be glad to talk about the final chapter. The final chapter in the life and history and the career of Hulk Hogan. See, because it's over, Hogan. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. You had 3 good years, you can't laugh at that. You were lucky, you made some money, you got a cartoon, you got some dolls, you rode good, you had it good. But you know you can't beat this man. Toughest man in the world, nobody can beat this man. You think with all that blonde hair and a bunch of little Hulksters out there and behind you, you ripping that t-shirt off and shaking in your pythons, you think you can beat him, dummy? It can't be done by you, 10 guys like you, or 100 people like you. This is the next heavyweight champion of the world. Get ready to swallow it, Hogan. It's all over.
I truly believe that. And I mean that with all due respect to Bobby Heenan. But I don't know how you're better than Paul Heyman, like who Dangerous Alliance, everything else in WCW that he's done. And then he goes to WWF and he manages Brock Lesnar. He manages CM Punk. He manages Roman Reigns. How is he not the greatest manager of all time? And I love fucking Bobby Heenan. And
who are the greatest managers of all time? I mean, I don't think you can have that conversation without Bobby Heenan. Oh, Bobby, Jesus Christ. I mean, that guy could work his ass. I mean, he could work better than most of the boys. Yes. Timing, impeccable. Just incredible. And could fill any role. Any role. Where you can love him, you can hate him, you can make you laugh, and as soon as you got finished, make you laugh, make you hate him again. The stuff that he did back and forth with Gorilla was just absolutely priceless. Amazing. It's just an amazing talent. And it's a shame that Bobby Heenan never did something outside of the industry like Saturday Night Live because he was so qualified for something like that.
And but I think that's how good Paul Heyman is. And Paul Heyman,
completely different era, but the stuff that he's done with his the guys that he did it with, forget it.
So we'll go around the table. Is there anyone, first of all, that we're missing? I don't know how we can, but maybe from Crockett or whatever, maybe we can all think of something. Craig, you said somebody. And
I said J.J. Dillon.
You did. And J.J. Dillon is not on here at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a WWF, list. He was not a manager, Craig, by the way, in WWF. So I want you to interject him because I want to throw that in here. J.J. Dillon, manager of the Four Horsemen, but he also did a lot of stuff backstage and managed the talent sometimes too. If they were a little unruly, they partied too long. JJ was kind of the guy that said, all right, that's enough. Much like Paul Ellering was to LOD.
Go to bed. Sorry.
Yeah. So, which Flair never listened. But JJ Dillon is a good offering, Craig.
And it was you, Holy Anderson, that welded the bat that cracked the knuckles in the hand of the so-called legend Dusty Rhodes. And I witnessed personally the gleam in your eye. And you're going to tell me in the dressing room, in the Omni next Sunday, when you sit there all in a circle, looking at each other, lacing your boots up, boy, if I was a betting man, I bet you could hear a pin drop in the place.
Yeah, like sometimes the The manager was just a talent figurehead, and sometimes they actually did have to carry their bags and manage some of their business, like Ellering did for LOD, and like you just said, J.J. Dillon. So sometimes it was more of a role. Virgil actually, he was just a valet, but or bodyguard. But to keep the gimmick going, he actually did carry his bags for X amount of years, etc. So sometimes like the Jimmies and Bobby the Brains would just go out 5 times a night with their guys, but other people actually had to do the actual, but that would suck, is actually helping with their travel and getting them place to place as a true manager. I don't know how much that happened, but I think for Ellering, who only had LOD and that kind of stuff. But the only other manager I can think of that I really enjoyed that I haven't heard on the list during their time was like Johnny Polo was fun for the short-term period that he was around.
He was, yeah.
When he wasn't wrestling. Yeah.
He managed
He was
the
a good
Quebecers,
commentator. He was a good manager.
And Vince had him on Raw and commentating a lot, and he would mess around and say things that would be Vince like, "What? You know what?" Like he just kind of would react like to that too. Actually, that's a really fun call out. It's a really good call out.
We have one Johnny Polo. Johnny, can you hear us?
Yeah, of course I can hear you, McMoron. What do you want?
I beg your pardon?
Hey, listen, what do you want to know? Marty Jannetty tonight? I already told you. It was just a short month ago that I told everyone in TV land that I could take Marty Confetti and the snot-nosed kid and beat them both at the same time. And what did I do? I did it. I proved to everyone. And now, once again, for all my adoring fans, my worshiping, beloved fans, I'm going to prove once again by tonight defeating Marty Confetti 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. And that's why I am Johnny Polo.
Dave, do you have anybody in mind? Either you can accentuate someone who is on the list, or you can say someone who.
How about? I mean, not just to go not on the list to be proper. How about Macho's brother, Mr. Poffo? How about
the Genius?
Lanny? How about
he was actually in their top 30 actually, and I didn't read the whole list or whatever, but he was there.
No, I get you.
So
he's not in the top. Yeah, he did some work, and
I didn't even really think of that at all.
Yeah, he did some decent work. That's just out of the top 20, and I think it's fair to mention him. And did a great job as a manager / valet, and would do more to enhance. Because I think just to your point, the reason why you put Paul over Bobby at this point is because Bobby would just work with the talent and go with the story, where Paul actually, Heyman actually enhances that talent. He works to make that talent better, and he provides ideas. He puts more into the realm of being a manager or a valet than Bobby did in that aspect. The other side of it is Bobby might outrank Paul in other aspects because he did so much broadcasting work that Paulie's done a lot less of, maybe. So to your point, they're equal in their own rights in their top positions, but Bobby did so much great work with Gorilla on commentary that gets missed, but Paulie definitely does more on the manager side because he made talent better. I don't know if Bobby did that. Bobby just enhanced what was already there.
I mean, you look at Paul Heyman's expressions outside the ring. Everything he does is on purpose and helps the guy that he's with in the match and the story that's being told. And from all accounts, the stuff and the hand that he has backstage in the promos and creative and stories, like with everything with Roman and Punk and everyone he did, like, I mean, forget it. Like 2 completely different eras, but in the world of Heyman's just had now how many years of top-notch main event success.
When Brock broke the streak and you
storyline.
see Paulie's shocked face, you don't forget it, along with the fans' shocked faces too.
I think it's always good to let go too. I think it's easy for us to grab onto nostalgia and then always be like, nope, it's Bobby. But really, like, I think it's Paul Heyman, and I don't even think it's close. And that's how great Paul Heyman is, because Heenan was great. And
what's funny,
Paul
10 years ago, you might still say Bobby.
Heenan was. I'm not degrading Heenan at all, but maybe it is time for a change in the guard. I think Heyman eclipses him, and again, that's not easy to do. I'm just saying that Heyman is that fucking good.
Yeah,
he promoted his own
also
company.
Bobby was watered down. Like when you're out there every other match, and your Heenan family is like half the roster. Like look at WrestleMania for like 5 or whatever. Like he's just every other match he's down there. Same with Jimmy Hart, which is it can be a little.
I feel like WrestleMania
watered
3, he was down there. He was down there almost every time. He couldn't even commentate.
Well, and I also talk about too. We're at 21 minutes, or we're a little less than 21 minutes because we messed around before we started the episode. But the honorable mention, Jim Cornette, even though he only managed the Midnight Express and like Yoko and stuff, Jim Cornette was excellent. And he really came in there. And for a long time, I was like, God, he's number 2 to Bobby. But he tied another person. And so I want to pay respect to Jim Cornette. But at the same time, Jimmy Hart is an unsung hero. And I know like he got corny with Hogan. And when he was a face manager, we're like, shut the fuck up. I get it. But like, you talk about, you have Bobby Heenan in the same company as you, but he still managed the Honky Tonk Man. He still managed the Hart Foundation. He managed Greg the Hammer Valentine. He was very interesting. And he wrote all the theme songs, and maybe that's a little sub
Nasty
thing or
Boys?
whatever. But he managed the Nasty Boys. He managed Money Incorporated, and he was like he managed Hogan. Like, if you want to throw that on his list, and then he goes to WCW and he manages like the, Dungeon of Doom, which was like Faces of Fear and all that stuff. Like he stepped in there, and really when he had to be an assistant, he was able to do that. Like if they were like, this talent needs a little bit of let's put Jimmy on him. Like, and he did that. And so I love Jimmy Hart for that. I think Jimmy doesn't get his flowers enough because of the fact that Heenan was there. But Jimmy was successful in Memphis. He managed fucking Andy Kaufman when he was in the feud against Lawler. He managed a tons of talent against Lawler. He managed Bundy originally. He managed a lot of people. But Jimmy Hart does not get his flowers. And I think that him and Cornette are even in that sense because Bobby Heenan eclipsed everybody during that time. But you have two guys like Cornette and Jimmy Hart to me that were like, Heenan was 1A and they were like 1B. And like, because of the fact that but they were so creative. Both of them were so excellent on the mic. Jimmy Hart was,
I think even just
fucking face.
To just break in the business, you had to be good at 5 different things. So it's like Heyman was a photographer that snuck his way in. I forget what Cornette did. He was a historian and probably sold popcorn or whatever. Jimmy Hart, look at what he did towards the end. He was the manager.
Paul Heyman did the same thing.
He wrote the theme. He wrote the theme music for everybody too. And then the fact that Jimmy Hart also like. One question I have for you guys is like, who was actually the best bumping manager or took the most bumps? So like, it's got to be, I think, Bobby did for a little bit, then stopped and then got hurt.
Fuji.
But Jimmy Hart, just they threw him around.
Yeah, Adrian
like
Adonis. He bumped like crazy when he was at Adrian Adonis. The Fabulous Rougeaus, Jimmy Hart managed. Like
kept talking, because Andy and I were really kind of shooting an angle. They were filming over the top of it, but he didn't know it. And he goes, Andy, you can't get a word in edgewise. Jimmy, we might as well call you the mouth of the South, And so I thought, man, that's not bad. I better use that from now on down here. Woo! And so I started using the mouth of the South, but he just threw it in there because I was over talking to Andy Kaufman,
A lot of guys, that's how a lot of their catchphrases and stuff came up, and it's stuck with you ever since.
It's been great. It really has.
There's so many people.
They would throw him out of the ring and like just like Hogan would beat the shit out of Jimmy Hart
he
like
would,
on a
all the time,
daily basis.
I felt Fuji could take real bumps though. Because he was a former wrestler himself.
Well, Fuji, but he got old. Fuji's another one that's unsung. So was Slick, and I know that they were popular in the '80s era or whatever. But Slick was excellent. Like Twin Towers, Boss Man Akeem, One Man Gang, Natural Butch Reed. Like Slick was excellent as well. I mean, we don't give him enough. And he was, again, I'm going to be very careful about how I tread here. He had, in the '80s, it was like you play a stereotype, and so he just still found a way to make it fun. Where it wasn't threatening, it wasn't offensive per se. I know you can look back at some of the stuff and be like, it's Jesus Christ, like, look what they were having him do. But at the same time, like, he still was such a great character. And I think that overshined because Slick knew how to promote himself.
Pimp is a pimp. His character was a pimp, and he
he just he had fun with it or whatever. He's like, man, like, he was just like, listen, like, I'm not saying that it would fly now, but I'm saying, like, he had a job and he did it really well. But I feel that also, like, he's stuck in my memory. Like, I was just like, God, Slick is cool. And he's funny. Like, he's very funny. So, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, we repeat a lot of the same stuff. And J.J. Dillon, it's an excellent call out that, like, should be recognized or whatever. But he had just one faction. But, like, I mean, he still was a huge part. There's a lot of people like Gary Hart and, like,
Colonel Tom Parker or Rob Parker. What the fuck was his name?
Yeah, Colonel Rob Parker. Yeah, for sure.
Who we never brought up either is I guess more of a valet, but I thought she was excellent and construed a lot of matches was Woman. Woman was good.
Yes, Woman, Doom.
But she was never really WWE, so she wasn't on the list.
mean, the art of being a good manager, besides Paul Heyman, is dead. Like it's been dead for a long time. But
Dave Vicious would not have a title without Jess Wilpman.
Thank you, Jess Wilpman managed you to the top.
That's
we
right.
are talking about our Backyard Wrestling Federation and all our characters right now, just for the people at home.
It's so fun.
And there's a lot of little people too. Like I said, Gary Hart, Hiro Mansuta. Like, there's a lot of people that we don't remember, or they were just flash in the pans or whatever. Like,
who was the WCW Sonny Ono?
Sonny Ono.
Yep,
yeah.
Sonny Ono. Yeah.
He managed a ton of teams. Like over
every single.
He was the reason why New Japan stayed the relationship. Because Bischoff and him, they were good friends. I think they worked out at the same dojo, and stuff like that.
Cool.
And, yeah, so basically he kept the avenue open for New Japan and WCW.
Talk about like a dark horse, because you wouldn't have seen you wouldn't have seen a ton of New Japan stuff without.
He brought in Ultimo Dragon. He brought in any Japanese wrestler. He introduced them in.
It's a lost art form. There's not a lot. Yeah,
there's not a lot.
It's done now, right?
Sonny is a little bit of like a lost. They try. Vince was like in the tweener. Vince was out of the manager thing at that point. And then Sonny, well, she's hot, so get her out there. It's just kind of Sonny was this weird hybrid, of woman manager. But Sherry, again, I don't know if we can sing her praises enough. Sherry, she was wonderful. She's just absolutely wonderful.
Check the archives too. I think that whole episode.
We have a legacy of Sherry, which is one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. Because
by the way, you talked about who took the most bumps. Sherry might have taken more bumps.
Yeah, she against from men, by the way, and there were so many times where Hogan talked about how he got knocked out by Sherry, one time, because they did this whole spot where they were touring, and it was when Sherry was with Macho. It was right after WrestleMania 5, so they toured for the world title. And Hogan said it was in France, I think, and they were in there or whatever. And he did this whole bit where he fucks up Savage, and then she gets on the apron to distract him, and then he starts being super animated. So Hogan mocks her and he's doing the whole thing. And when he gets close to her, she slaps him. And he said that one fucking night she cupped her hand just right, and she slapped him, and it cupped his ear and caused his equilibrium to fuck up. And he was like, I was knocked out. On my feet for 30 seconds. I had to pull back against the ropes or whatever. He's like, she hit me so hard right in the ear, and it cupped my equilibrium so perfect that he was like, she just struck me good. And he's like, dude, sure just knocked me out. Basically.
Could you imagine that conversation in the back with that beautiful, sensual woman? He's like, Sherry, you knocked me out, brother. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry, babe.
I love it.
For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at our wrestling channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion.
Get ready for a surprise.
Yes. On social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast. For Craig, Justin, myself, this is the O.W.P signing off on the best managers. Have a good one.
Laugh. That's the manager
laugh.